Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Disruptor. And don't forget, each episode we get to learn something new about someone very, very special and inspirational and creative. That's why this is called our Creative 2022 edition. In our most recent episode, we had Leon Wu, a proud anak Malaysia making a name for himself at Pixar with Hollywood's blockbuster content and some of the content under his belt include Coco, Toy Story 4, The Incredibles 2, just to name a few. This episode, we're going to speak to Paul Robinson, who is the co-president of Genius Brands International's Kartoon channel, a worldwide company, a worldwide content provider. Now, he came from wide and rich background in managing various media outlets and kids channels such as Toon Disney, Disney Playhouse, and others. Paul Robinson is definitely a go-to-go person when it comes to platforms for creative content for niche markets such as children and youngsters. Without further ado, let's tap Paul's mind and get into his creative insights on how he taps the children's creative mind.
I think it's huge and getting bigger. What's really interesting is that kids' TV content shows no sign of abating. In fact, kids has become almost the must-have, particularly for streamers, as more and more viewing has gone to streaming. People like Netflix, Disney Plus, local players, they need kids for two reasons. One, it's very good for anti-churn. You put kids' content on a platform and no parent is going to stop their kids watching their favorite show. Life is too short to have your kids rioting because they've just lost their favorite TV show. So it's very good anti-churn, but also it's very good for family values. It's very good for the positioning of the platform, making the position feel like it's a family platform and value for money. And if kids are enjoying it and parents see kids enjoying it, they sort of feel more comfortable about paying for it, because you've got to pay for those SVOD services. So kids are very important there. On linear, clearly linear channels are declining. It depends on the market. Here in Malaysia, there is decline, although linear channels are still very powerful here, but they are going down. There are some parts of the world where they're not really. Latin America, Central Eastern Europe, not going down. US almost disappeared for kids. In the UK, the BBC have dropped one of their two kids channels, but not all markets are created equally. So more and more kids is on demand, and more kids content also, of course, is on mobile phones. And one of the interesting things about the pandemic is that more kids now at a younger and younger age have mobile phones. And so what they watch is different to what they'll watch on the main TV in the household. So there's a big demand also for kids content, particularly short form. Short form, snackable content, watch on mobile phones. It's a whole new market. So in short, the demand for kids content is probably as great or greater than it's ever been. Gosh, forecasting 5 years these days is very difficult. 20, 30 years ago, you could forecast 5 years ago. Now, 5 years ahead, my goodness me, who knows what's going to happen in 5 years? I think that we're going to see the trend towards non-linear increasing. I think kids are usually at the forefront of new technological advance, and that's being driven, of course, by tablets and phones. I think you're going to see more and more UGC, more hybrid content, which is mixing animation and live action. Certainly a lot more short form content. And I think also a lot of new players coming in. I think what's interesting about short form is it's opening up the market to new entrants, new people who've got a voice, got a story to tell, and that's really good. And the other thing is globalization will continue, because the thing about kids is that, there's different cultures in our societies, of course there are, and that's a great thing, and that diversity is great. But all kids really care about the same thing. They all go to school, they've all got parents, they've got annoying brothers and sisters, they don't want to do their homework, they haven't got enough pocket money, they want a particular sort of food, they like or they dislike sports, they get bullied at school. All those issues are global issues, or they get worried about things. The world's an uncertain place at the moment. The war in Ukraine, is really very worrying for a young child. So those things are completely universal, whether you're in Kuala Lumpur or you're in Jakarta or you're in Manila or you're in London or Munich or Stockholm. And so I think that's where the opportunity lies. And if you can tap into that, I think you're onto a winner. What I'd say is if you're here in Southeast Asia, make sure your show is authentic. I mean, reflect Malaysian culture, whether it's food or dress or whatever it is, do reflect that. But think about the issues which are common to all kids and tell the story through Malaysian eyes, but connect with things that matter to kids around the world, wherever they are. And if you do that, you're onto a winner. Well, I wouldn't say it's about tapping. I would say working with. I mean, I think tapping sounds a bit like exploitation. So, but there's opportunity, I would say. I mean, clearly, we've talked about this a lot over the last couple of days at MDEC, and that is that there's a lot of very good technical skills here. And the same is true in the Philippines, the same is true in Korea. Very good technical skills. I've seen lots of pitches and fantastic quality of animation. But as some speakers have said, storytelling is still weak. Character design, storytelling, the pre-production part is still relatively weak. And that's normal because many of the studios here have started as work-for-hire studios. They've done not even necessarily whole episodes, or they might have just done comp and lighting or some part of the production process. So they haven't really had the opportunity to create a whole show. And therefore creating IP is very different to doing work-for-hire. But a lot of studios are wanting to get into IP. Why? Well, that's where the opportunity is. If you're doing work for hire, you make your margin, but you just keep on working and there's money coming in, you're putting food on the table, but you're not really ever going to have that luxury holiday because you're not going to make enough. But if you have IP and you can build a really successful kids franchise, that's when you can make money. So it's important that Malaysian and Asian creators do get to learn how to write better stories, how to define characters better. And that's a natural development process because the industry here is relatively young. If that happens, I think it's very likely, and it's already started to some extent, but will accelerate. You can export Malaysian creativity to the rest of the world, and you can see all this fantastic Malaysian work being shown, in America, Europe, Far East, Australia, New Zealand, wherever you are in the world, you'll see Malaysian animated kids content, and that's the opportunity. There's a lot of talent here. People have just got to learn some additional skills, which they will. It's a natural learning process. So strategies for programming linear and streaming are obviously quite different. The first thing I'd say is the production needs to be thought about, because if you're streaming, there's two big advantages you have. One is you don't need to make the episodes exactly 11 minutes or 22 minutes. They can be any duration you like. So the story can run as long as you wish. You look at some of the big drama series, the episode might be 45 minutes or it might be 90 minutes, depending on what the story dictates. It shouldn't be longer than the story dictates because then it will drag, but also you want enough time to tell the story. So first of all, you've got no worries about duration. It can be any duration you like. And secondly, you can build a story arc into it. So what you can do is you can actually have character development and story developing through the episodes, because what streamers want to do is they want to hook you into the next episode. If you watch content on any streamer, at the end of the episode, there's always a cliffhanger. And the purpose of that is to get you to watch the next episode and the next episode. If you're programming a TV channel, you want to repeat those episodes and run them over and over again. So of course, the hook can't work in the same way. Each episode's got to be self-contained. So you've got to make the episodes in a different way. That's the first thing. The second thing is, when you're programming on a streamer, you've got two big options. Either you dump all the episodes in one go. So you've got 26 episodes and you go, right, Friday night, they're all going to appear. And there they are on the service. And you then can binge watch them over the weekend if you wish, or if you're very disciplined, you might watch, one a day. But most people aren't that good. If they love a show, they'll watch the whole lot. When Stranger Things came out, I heard of all sorts of people just staying up all night watching Stranger Things, back to back until they got to the end of the season. I'm sure the parents complained. But that's the first thing. The second thing is you can actually drop them in on a weekly basis, a bit like a linear TV show. So you can say every Friday at 5 o'clock, we're going to have a new episode, and you just drop it in every week. So you create an appointment to view. And that's really good, because what that does is it gets the viewer to come back to that platform, at that occasion, and then watch that episode. And then hopefully they'll see other stuff and watch other stuff. If you're scheduling a TV channel, you obviously strip it. So you'd put normally the same shows in Monday to Friday in each slot. So it'd be the same schedule every day. And then the weekend, a different schedule, because at the weekend, you feel differently. Saturday, whether you're a kid or you're grown up, Saturday feels different. And Sunday feels different. Excuse me. And Sunday feels different because on Sunday you've got to do your homework from Monday if you haven't done it already, and you've got to sharpen your pencils. I mean, you've always got that Sunday night feeling, oh, back to school, back to work. So you feel differently, so the mood needs to be different. And then you've got to work out what your repeat rate is. And in fact, when you schedule a kids show, what's interesting is that it's actually good to repeat stuff because kids like to see things over and over again. If you repeat too much, they go, oh, I've seen that before. If they don't see enough, they don't build the familiarity. So getting those repeat rates right is really difficult. So you've got to work out, I've got 24 hours a day, I've got 7 days a week, that's 168 hours a week of programming. How many times do I want to repeat that show? So, you can then work out how many episodes you need and so on. So if you're repeating, say, 10 times and you're playing it once a week, 26 episodes will last you for 6 months. And that way you work out how your schedule works. So it's a bit of maths and a little bit of science and a little bit of guesswork and a bit of inspiration. So at Genius Brands, we are a content creator. So we make new original shows. The most recent show we've just launched is a show called Shaq's Garage with Shaq O'Neal, the basketball player, which is about Shaq and, well, I won't give the story away too much, but it's a brand new show in which he's got, well, a whole load of vehicles are in it. It's a great, cool vehicle show with Shaq. And he's been just a pleasure to work with. He's a big personality, but he's endorsed that show. And that is going to be launching on air in about the spring of next year. We're just in the process of marketing that. And our next show is a cooking show, but with Wolfgang Puck, the chef, the man behind Spargo, who is an amazing man. He is an absolute marketeer. He turns up for all his restaurant launches. He turned up for a launch we did in Eastern Europe. And he's just inspirational and charismatic, but he just loves cooking. So this show is going to be about a bunch of kids who travel around the world trying all sorts of different food, whether it's fish and chips in London or nasi lemak in Malaysia. And that's what the show is going to be about. And they have an adventure on the way. So that show will launch in 2024. We're just at the moment starting production. And we've got 2 or 3 more things in the pipeline. Aside from that, we're making a lot of gaming shows. We've just made a Roblox show with kids. And the show's interesting. What it is basically it's kids playing Roblox. So you watch kids playing Roblox. And you might think, oh, that's a bit boring. But actually, kids love it. So it's a bit like a tournament. And we have kids competing against each other. But they're competing in the Roblox platform and playing these different games. And they play from home. So they go on Zoom. And they appear on the TV on Zoom. And then there's a host. And then they play Roblox virtually on Zoom. And then we make it into a TV show. And we've been pitching that around various people, and people love it. And it's just, Roblox is sort of, Roblox is like as good as food for kids, I mean, you have kids' parties on Roblox now, Roblox, Minecraft, every kid is on there and on YouTube, of course. They're sort of they're holy grails. So we're making those. We're also launching our channels. So we're about to launch a cartoon channel into Southeast Asia. We're currently in America, in Europe, Latin America. We're not in Asia. So we're talking to people in Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, all the places you'd expect to launch an Asian version of Cartoon Channel for Southeast Asia early next year. And so what we're also doing this week is meeting various people. So I've been around and seen Unify and Astro and Media Prima and all the major players. And we're talking to all those platforms in those markets. And then I'm off to Vietnam at the end of the week to go to Vietnam and talk to people there. So hopefully Cartoon Channel for Asia coming in probably the spring of 2023. So I think it's great working with studios all over the world. And we've done a number of partnerships with studios here. The first one was with Inspidia. And then we've worked with Giggle Garage, Little Critter Workshop, various other studios. And these people have become friends. And I think what's great is when you work with another partner, you all benefit. You benefit from teamwork, learning, and building, I think, friendships, actually. I mean, you build real friendships. Coming back here, it's been like coming back and seeing old friends, which is just fantastic. If you are committed and are really hardworking, you can do it. But you've got to be aware it's very competitive. There are more people making TV shows for kids than there are slots to put them on. So supply exceeds demand. So you need to make sure you've got something different. You need to make sure what you do really well. Be true to yourself, be honest to yourself, tell great stories, great characters. Also design. I would say that now when you think about navigation, people navigate via thumbnails. And you click across, and if you see a nice thumbnail, you might look at it. If you think, oh, it's a bit boring, don't like that, you miss that show. And that show might be great, but the thumbnail isn't. And then the whole consumer experience is lost. So design and having a distinctive look is really important. But be focused, be tenacious, and go for it. If belief's a big thing, I think, you don't think you can't do it, think you can do it. And make sure you do engage with partners who can give you advice, because no one knows everything. And wherever in the world you are, you can't understand every culture. I'm really lucky. I mean, over my many years working, I've traveled to about 98 countries in the world. And the only way you understand a country is by being here. And I've got friends here. I've been coming here 25 years. I love coming here. And I get to feel a bit about, I'm not Malaysian, obviously, but I feel I understand Malaysian culture a bit better because I've spent time here and spent time talking to people. So I'd say, do travel, get around, talk to people, take in new experiences, but ultimately it's about belief and hard work and a bit of perspiration, a bit of inspiration, and you can do it.
Well, I wasn't lying to you. We really tapped his creative insight. When I say he is Paul Robinson, and his encouraging words for us today, Asian creators to stick true to our values, stick true to our stories. And we want to tell our children's stories to the whole wide world. If it's a kanchil, then tell the kanchil, because the kanchil is applicable to the international market. That's all we have time for right here on The Disruptors, everyone. Until the next episode, I'm Ben Ibrahim. Stay safe and take care.